I was the one who logged the distress calls and the dates, so I know exactly how long those men had been dead by the time we heard them on the hull. They knock on the pipes when I close my eyes. 3 slow taps, space, then 2. Always the same rhythm. It comes up through the radiator behind my chair, like it's traveling through steel and water first, not brick. The nurse tells me it's just the heating. Old building, old pipes. She smiles, opens the window a crack to let the cigarette smoke out, and says the sea air will do me good. We are nowhere near the sea. Still, the room smells of diesel and damp clothes right now. Old wool, wet rubber. I taste metal on my tongue, and my fingertips itch like they're still stained with signal paper and carbon, like they were in 42 in the North Atlantic, when I wrote no survivors and put my initials under it. They knock again. 3, pause, 2. The same pattern that came in weak and broken that night before the line went dead. I stare at the glass on the bedside table. The water inside it ripples very softly, as if something deep beneath it just shifted. My hand shakes. I pinch the bridge of my nose and feel the scar along the eyebrow. The one I got when the boat lurched and I hit the radio rack in 42. Someone whispers in the walls behind my head. Funker surface. The voice is wrong. It is flat and empty, and still carries that thin edge of English you never forget once you hear it. The tongue taps the roof of the mouth in a way no German does. I know that voice. I know the man it belonged to. I saw his face in the red light of the control room and in the white of the Atlantic moon. I watched him freeze without freezing, sitting upright in the raft when we finally broke surface and pretended we didn't see him. My knuckles brushed the photograph lying face down on my lap. I haven't flipped it over in a long time. The corners are curled, the paper gone soft from years of thumbs. I can feel 4 heads under my fingers, maybe 5. Too many for the number of men who came home from that patrol. One of them was never on our crew list. The knocks travel along the floor toward the door, like someone crawling through the ballast. 3, pause. 2, they always stop just short of the bed. The night they find the courage to knock one more time, I know they'll be in the room. There is a rule we learn at sea. We do not stop for survivors. Not after 40. Not once the escorts learn to hunt us, and the aircraft learn to fly further. We sink, and we slip away. We leave the rafts and the oil-slicked men behind. We close the hatch and take their voices with us. We broke that rule once. The radiator hisses. For a second the sound is not steam, but the long wet rush of a wave shearing along a metal hull. My heart stutters. The window glass shows my reflection, and, just for a blink, a second row of faces behind mine, clean-shaven caps on, eyes like wet coal. I close my eyes because I know what comes next anyway. The smell of cold salt and battery acid. The creak of bunks as men roll in their sleep. The soft, patient voice of Lieutenant Brenner saying my name in the dark above the hum of the motors. Reiser, mark the time. You will want to remember this. I always remember from the same moment. We are tied up in Trondheim taking on fuel and fresh bread, and the fjord is so still, the water looks like oil. The mountains block the sun early here. Shadows crawl down the slopes before evening, and the surface of the water goes black under them. The dock smells of fish, rope, and coal. Flags hang limp. Men shout in Norwegian as they shift crates. Somewhere up the hill a church bell rings, and the sound slides across the harbor like something heavy dragged on stone. I stand on the deck with the headphones crooked around my neck, signal book under my arm, listening to nothing. Just the hiss of static. Orders will come later. Positions, convoy codes. For now, I listen to the gulls and the clank of pumps. Holtz, our machinist's mate, leans on the rail beside me with a cigarette stuck to his lower lip. He rolls it from one corner of his mouth to the other without using his hands. He does that when he is nervous. He has a girl in keel and a tattoo of an anchor that looks more like a crooked cross on his forearm. He spits over the side. Look at that funker, he says. See like a mirror. Bad sign. Why? He jerks his chin toward the far end of the pier. An old woman sits on an upturned crate there, wrapped in black from head to toe, despite the mild air. Her hands rest on a basket in her lap, fingers like driftwood, twisted and pale. She does not sell anything. She does not move. Her eyes never leave our boat. Locals say when the fjord looks like that, Holt says, the Draugr can see their faces in it. Then they remember they're supposed to be above, not below. He grins as he says it, but his eyes keep sliding back to her. Draugr, I repeat. I know the word from somewhere. Stories. Cheap novels and port. Drowned men that won't stay down. Ghosts of sailors, he says. Dead ones. They crawl out of their ships at night. Come to ask for a berth on any boat that will have them. You let them aboard, you never make it back to harbor with the same crew. He takes a drag. Grandfather's story, for scaring children. But still, the old woman lifts a hand. For a second I think she's waving. She isn't. Her fingers twitch once, twice, 3 times, pause, then twice again. The same pattern that will come back years later through the bones of this building. Holtz shivers. See? Even she knows the code. Probably just old, I say. Arthritis. Down the dock, Capel, our bow plainsman, laughs loud enough to carry. He always laughs too loud for the boat. He has big hands and bigger teeth and tells the same 3 jokes about officers again and again. The cook smacks him with a ladle. Someone throws a piece of bread at his head. The loaf hits the water instead, and the surface ripples outward in perfect circles. Brenner steps into the conning tower, cap tucked under his arm. He is slender, with a narrow face and hair that never seems to lie flat. There is a dent on the brim of his cap where it hit a valve wheel once during an emergency dive. He never replaces it, says it's good luck. He looks at the old woman only for a second before he looks past her to the mountains. Enough fairy stories, he says softly as he comes down the ladder. We have work. We sail at dusk. The harbor shrinks behind us until the lights are only pinpricks on the water. The air is cold enough to bite through wool. I stand in the tower with Brenner and Capel, watching the dark shoulders of rock slide by. Somewhere above, clouds blur the stars. We run on the surface through the night. Diesel engines thrum under our feet. Spray hits our faces and strips whatever smell of land is left in our clothes. Below, the men settle into the rhythm. Watches coffee, condensed milk, bread already losing its crust. Someone cranks the gramophone until the same song about a girl in Hamburg scratches through the hull. I sit at my radio desk, headphones on, eyes closed. The set glows, soft orange. I hear the world in crackles and clicks. Distant stations, naval codes, weather reports. Somewhere, English voices chatter for a moment before they dissolve in noise. The first distress call comes 3 days later. We are somewhere west of Ireland. The sea is no longer calm. Swells roll under us in long, slow hills. The sky is low and gray. The smell of the Atlantic fills everything. Cold, salt, old fish, oil, and the stink of men who have not washed properly in a week. I am dozing in my chair when the signal pops through. 3 beeps. Pause. 3. Pause. 3. SOS. Then the call letters. The name, SS Coralline. I say aloud, pencil scratching. Position. I jot down the coordinates as the English voice, thin and clipped, rattles them off. Torpedoed, listing, taking on water. Lifeboats launching. Any vessel in vicinity requested to assist. Capel pokes his head in. He smells of sweat and machine oil. Another one. Freighter, I say. Sounds British. He whistles through his teeth. Bad night to be on the surface in that tub. He walks away. His boots tap the deck twice, then vanish as he swings down the ladder. I carry the message to Brenner in the control room. He takes it without a word. His eyes pass over the coordinates. His jaw tightens for a second. He looks at the chart, then at the gyro repeater. Plot that, he says to the navigator. We are already here. There are already men in the water somewhere over our bow. We have our own orders. Patrol line, Wolfpack, convoy routes. We are told to listen, to strike, to disappear. The distress calls are the echo of our work and of others. We are not told to answer them. Still, Brenner hesitates. His thumb traces the edge of the paper, smearing the pencil line a little. Permission to listen in, Herr Kalian, I ask quietly. He nods once. Listen, don't respond. I go back to my stool. For half an hour, I hear the splintered calls of a ship dying. Coordinates repeated. Voices shouting in the background. Then another signal, weaker, from a lifeboat transmitter. Short bursts. They give a bearing, a rough distance from where the Coraline went down, then nothing. The sea swallows the voice as neatly as it will swallow the ship. I write the time in the log. I put a line under the entry. Weeks later, that is the detail that won't let go. The exact minute the Coraline's call goes silent. We see rafts and wreckage all the time, empty boats, oil slicks, a hat floating brim up, as if its owner just slipped out of it. Once, a wooden crate with a child's broken doll inside. I no longer remember where, somewhere gray and cold. They all blend. We do not stop. We watch through the periscope if we must. We mark positions if ordered. We move on. It is not cruelty. It is survival. On the surface, with men on deck hauling shivering bodies out of the water, we are a blind, slow target. The escorts live for moments like that. In the mess, Capel still makes his jokes. If they want a lift, he says one night, chewing on black bread. They should have joined the Kriegsmarine. Holtz throws a bit of crust at him. It bounces off his forehead. Shut your mouth, Holtz says. Draugr find you with a mouth like that? Capel laughs. If I see a ghost in the water, I ask him if he wants my bunk. Maybe he snores less than you. No one laughs as loud as they usually do. I tilt my mug and watch the tea slosh. For a second the liquid looks thicker, darker. Like oil, not water. Tiny flecks of something white drift in it, like foam. I blink. It's just tea. A week later, on a dirty gray morning, the lookouts shout down from the tower. Raft ahead, starboard. The boat shudders as Brenner orders a slight course correction to bring us closer. We are on the surface, batteries charging, sky low but clear enough. No aircraft, no mastheads on the horizon, no smoke. I climb the ladder to the tower, the wind slicing my cheeks. My eyes water from the sting. At first I see nothing but the endless swell, the pale backs of waves lifting and dropping. Then the shape appears, rising and falling. A Carly float, round, with men slumped along its rim like dead birds along a wire. 4 of them, maybe 5. Hard to tell at a distance with the spray. Someone waves an arm weakly. The movement is slow, almost lazy. Survivors, Capel says, squinting. His cap is pulled low, his nose red from the cold. Silence, Brenner says. His eyes scan the horizon again. Any sign of a mast? Smoke plume? Nothing, the lookout says. Empty all around. We draw closer. The raft lifts on a swell, and I see faces. They are pale, lips cracked, eyes sunk deep. Uniforms I do not recognize immediately. Life jackets. One man's hands grip the rope so tightly his knuckles are white. They do not look as bad as they should. That is my first thought. They are thin, yes. Black shadows under their eyes. But their movements are too precise. Their skin not yet gone, that waxy yellow I have seen on men who have been too long in cold water. One of them raises a hand higher, palm out. He calls in English, voice hoarse. Help us. For Christ's sake. Holtz mutters under his breath. Christ doesn't sail this far west. Brenner's jaw works. Captain, the first officer says quietly, standing order. He doesn't finish. He doesn't have to. We all know the order. We all know we are alone on this patch of ocean for now. No enemy ships in sight. No aircraft. The deck gun crew stands ready, but there is nothing to shoot. The wind changes. It carries a smell across the waves that does not belong here. Not fish, not oil. Something like cold stone and old wet rope. The smell of harbor walls at low tide. The raft bumps gently against our hull. One of the men looks up directly at me. His hair is plastered to his skull. His eyes are surprisingly clear, gray, with a ring of lighter color around the iris. His lips move around cracked teeth. "You?" he croaks. "Listen to me. We've been weeks. Please. Weeks." My fingers tighten on the rail. "Name your ship," Brenner calls, in English. "Coraline." The man answers at once. "SS Coraline, from Liverpool. We were hit 3 weeks ago now. Maybe more." The date he rasps does not match the calendar in my head. It matches the entry in my logbook from Trondheim. The night we heard the SOS, Holtz's cigarette hangs forgotten in the corner of his mouth. Ash blows away in the wind. Capel looks at me. His eyes say what his mouth does not dare. "You heard that name." I nod once. Brenner pulls his cap lower. His gaze flicks between the horizon and the raft. Something about the raft is wrong. The wood is not as swollen as it should be after so long at sea. The canvas lashings are stained and frayed, but not rotten. The men's faces peel a little where the sun has burned them, but there are no sores, no obvious infections. Their lips bleed where they crack, but their teeth are whole. I hear the old woman's fingers again. 3. Pause. 2. Draugr. It's a children's tale, I tell myself, but my heartbeat stutters as if someone has laid a cold, wet hand on my chest. "Please," the man says. "We're freezing." Brenner swears softly in German under his breath. "Ladders," he says. Quickly. "Kruger, you and 2 men with rifles. If they try anything, you shoot. Funker, camera, document names, ship, date. We will be asked." The first officer hesitates for the briefest moment. "Kalian, do it," Brenner snaps. He has broken bigger rules than this in port. Smuggled extra rations for men with families. Falsified a minor log to protect a machinist from punishment. He will not leave men to die in front of his eyes when we have the deck to ourselves. We lower the ladder. The first man climbs slowly. His hands leave wet prints on the metal rungs. His boots scrape. He moves like someone who has rehearsed each step many times, not like someone whose strength is almost gone. His skin is cold when I reach down to grip his forearm and haul him over the side. Not the cold of the air or of recent water, deep cold. The cold of something that has forgotten the sun. He smells of stale salt and something faintly sweet underneath, like rot starting in damp cloth. "Easy," Kruger says in halting English. "No tricks. You behave, no problem." The man nods. His head moves a fraction slower than his neck, as if something inside is catching up. He looks down into the open hatch. The warm air from below hits his face. For a second his expression changes. I cannot name the look. Relief, hunger, anticipation. He licks his cracked lips. One by one, we pull the others aboard. There are 4 in total, not 5. My eyes had lied at a distance, or the sea had. 2 are clearly English. 1 is perhaps Canadian from his accent. The 4th says little and watches everything. His hair is almost white from salt, though his face is not old. His eyes are a pale, washed-out blue. They do not blink often. We bring them into the boat. The air changes as soon as the hatch closes. Warm diesel fumes, sweat, and cooked onions are suddenly mixed with that same harbor smell, like low tide in a dead port. Men wrinkle their noses. Someone curses quietly. The lights flicker once. Brenner stands in the control room with his arms folded, cap tucked under his elbow, as we sit the men on the benches. I take their names in the log. My pencil moves. My hand remembers the date from the SOS. "Spell that," I say to the first man, the one who spoke from the raft. "His name is Morgan. Thomas Morgan. He was," he says, "a second officer on the Coraline." His tongue clicks against his teeth oddly when he says his own name. They shiver in their damp clothes, but not as much as I expect. Their fingers move slowly, flexing, as if they are waking up from a nap instead of a weeks-long ordeal. I ask them questions. "How long since the ship went down?" "Hard to say," Morgan says. His eyes drift to the pressure gauges on the wall, lingering there a second too long, as if he recognizes them. Feels like forever. Might be 3 weeks, might be 4. What did you eat? He smiles, just barely. We had tins, he says. Water, some biscuits. His gaze sharpens. You hear our call? Anyone answer? I swallow. We heard. No answer. The man with the washed-out blue eyes watches my face while I talk. What's your name? I ask him. He stares a moment longer, then says, John. No surname, no rank, no ship. Just John. His skin looks wrong, not in any obvious way. The pores are too smooth, like wax that has been pressed and cooled. A white line encircles one of his wrists, as if something thin and tight bound it for a long time. The lights flicker again. Holt sniffs. Smells like harbor mud, he mutters. How long were you in the life raft? Really? Morgan laughs. It is a hollow sound, long enough to see all the stars, he says. Long enough to hear the sea speak. He shouldn't say that. He could say waves, wind, birds, but he says the sea, as if it has a voice. Brenner cuts the questions short. We have limited space, he says in German for our benefit, then repeats in slow English. We take you as far as we can. When we meet a supply boat or friendly port, we hand you over. Until then, you stay where we tell you. You follow orders on my ship. Morgan nods politely. John's eyes slide along the ceiling slowly, as if he is mapping pipes and wiring in his head. Holtz crosses himself with quick, clumsy fingers where he thinks no one can see. We move them aft, bedding them down near the petty officers' quarters. Men exchange looks as they squeeze past the strangers in the narrow passageways. A British life jacket brushes a German uniform. Wet cloth leaves dark streaks on gray wool. When I walk past later with a message, John is humming under his breath. It is not an English song. The melody is low and old, like something you might hear in a church, if the priest had drowned and the choir were all the men who went down with him. The hair on my forearm stands up. I have heard that tune before, not in a church, on a dock in Trondheim, when the wind carried the faint sound of a woman's voice up from the black water. Just 3 notes, really, rising, falling, then rising again, like someone saying a name they had waited too long to say. That night, when we dive, the knocking begins. At first, it is easy to explain. Hull noises, pressure changes. The old hands say you hear all sorts of creaks when you go down. Pipes settle, plates flex. The boat talks to you in groans and little shrieks. If you don't like it, find another job. We are at 60 meters, then 80, then 100. The sea outside is a black weight. The lights are dimmed. Men speak in low voices. Sweat beads on lips and foreheads, despite the cold. Somewhere near the bow, something taps. 3. Pause. 2. It is sharp and precise, like knuckles on metal. Not the rippling groan of stressed steel. Not the rattle of unsecured tools. Holtz looks up from his pressure gauge. His Adam's apple bobs. Did you hear that? I whisper. He nods once, very slightly. Kruger swears under his breath. Probably some loose gear in the torpedo room, he mutters louder, for the benefit of anyone listening. I told those idiots to lash everything down. The tapping comes again, further along the hull this time, moving, following Morgan, sitting on a bench near the aft bulkhead, lifts his head, his eyes half close, like someone listening to a distant song on the radio. John's lips move silently. I cannot hear the words, but the shape of them looks like counting. We hit patrol depth. Brenner orders speed reduced. The engines change pitch. The silence between noises stretches. In the quiet, I hear something else. A faint, slow, drawn-out exhale, like someone blowing bubbles in deep water, right on the other side of the hull. When we surface again hours later, the air on the bridge bites like knives. The sea is calmer. The stars are out, sharp and cold. Somewhere far away, heat lightning flickers behind clouds. We take fresh air. Men smoke quickly, hands shaking a little more than yesterday. Maybe it was fish, Capel says. Big ones, hitting the hull. Holt snorts, at 100 meters. Sure, ghost fish. We do not look at the raft now lashed empty on deck. The salt has already crusted along its edges in strange patterns, like letters in a language I do not know. Days blur. We hold to our patrol line. We receive coded messages. We send position reports. We hear rumor in the static of other boats finding prey. Torpedoes fired. Ships broken. New oil slicks forming on other gray waves. Our guests settle into the boat like they have always belonged. They sleep unnaturally still. John lies on his back with his hands folded at his chest, fingers intertwined. His chest rises and falls, but very shallow, as if he is saving each breath. Morgan talks in his sleep sometimes, words slurring, but the language shifts. English, yes, but also something older. His mouth shapes vowels strangely wide and long. I cannot place it. One night I wake to find the corridor outside my bunk wet, not just damp. A thin layer of water covers the metal floor, as if someone spilled a bucket. My bare feet slap in it softly when I swing down. It is cold, colder than any water we have on board. I bend, fingers brushing the surface. They come away smelling of algae and rust. I trace the trickle. It runs along the deck, under the door to the compartment where the survivors sleep. It seeps under the threshold, as if the room itself were a cracked hull, barely holding something in. I knock. Everything all right in there? I call softly. No answer. I open the door a crack. The air inside is frigid. My breath plumes white in the dark. The light bulb hums faintly dim. The 4 bunks we gave them are occupied. Their eyes are open. All 4 lie on their backs, staring at the ceiling. Blankets pulled to their chins. Not a flicker in their faces when I step in. Need anything? I ask, my voice smaller than I want. Morgan's lips part. All right, he whispers. Just listening. Listening to what? He smiles. Currents, he says. She moves around you. You don't hear it. Like fingers. He lifts a hand, wiggles his fingers lazily in the air. The water on the floor thickens between my toes. I leave. In the radio room, the static seems thicker too. At first I think it's just my imagination. Then I realize there is a new sound threaded through the noise. A low, steady thrum, like a heartbeat slowed down beyond anything human. I check the tuning. I check the gain. The noise stays. When I put the headphones down, the thrum continues, faintly, through the metal of the desk and into my jaw. We are ordered to intercept a convoy. Night action. Surface approach. We run on the diesels. Black shapes charging through waves. Spray flying. The sea glows faintly in places with phosphorescence. Our bow cleaves through living light. The wake burns behind us for moments before darkness folds back over it. Men move fast and sure in the cramped spaces. Torpedome in check settings. The navigator mutters bearings. Brenner stands in the tower, glasses to his eyes, silhouette sharp against the starlit sky. I am at my post, but I feel each turn and pitch through my bones. We close on the convoy. Voices filter down from the tower. Lights. There. Starboard column. Tanker, I think. Destroyer ahead. Maybe 2. No searchlights yet. Keep low. Holt squeezes past me, smelling of sweat and machine oil. He taps my shoulder once as he goes. A small, habitual gesture. His way of saying, see you after, without words. I tap the edge of the desk twice in return. Superstition of my own. The tapping answers from the hull. 3. Pause. 2. It comes from the starboard side this time. Closer. More insistent. A cold film slicks my spine. Did you hear that? I whisper. No one answers. They are too busy aiming death at distant silhouettes. We fire. The boat shudders. The torpedo room bursts into controlled chaos. Men shout. Gauges wobble. The first torpedo races out into the dark, leaving the boat a little lighter, a little emptier. Minutes stretch. Then a muffled boom rolls back through the water, through the hull, up through our boots, into our teeth. Another. Shouts from above. Someone laughs. Someone swears. Reports filter down. Hit. Tanker. Fireball. Secondary explosions. In the red glow of the control room, sweat shines on faces. The convoy scatters. We dive to avoid the escorts. Depth charges bloom somewhere above. The hull rings like a bell. The tapping continues between the booms. Patient. Always the same pattern. I grit my teeth until my jaw aches. The first real casualty comes during the next day's run. We are at periscope depth, listening for screws, when the alarm shrieks from the engine room, man down. The shout travels through compartments in one breath. We crowd as close as we can. The air back there is always hotter, thick with oil and metal shavings. Today it smells of something else. Salt. Holtz lies on the deck plates, eyes wide, chest barely moving. His skin is pale, lips blue at the edges. His coverall is soaked, but not with sweat. Damp patches spread from his mouth and nose like he's been pulled from a river. Move back, the medic barks. He kneels, fingers at Holtz's throat. What happened? Just dropped. One of the engine hands stammers. He was checking a valve. Then he grabbed his chest, mouth open like he couldn't breathe, and down. The medic pries Holtz's lips open. Water spills out. Not a little. A thin stream pours over the man's chin and onto the deck. It smells like the ocean, not the place we are in now. Somewhere shallower. Harbors and ropes and rotting nets. The medic jerks back, crossing himself without thinking. Lungs full, he whispers. Like he drowned. But we are. He doesn't finish the sentence. Later, when they move Holtz's body to the torpedo room, wrapped in canvas, a line of wet footprints trails after the stretcher. Bare feet, longer than any man's whose boots I know. The toes narrow and sharp. I do not follow them. That night no one plays the gramophone. Men lie in their bunks, staring at the underside of the one above. Cigarettes burn down to their filters between fingers. Someone mutters a prayer from the next compartment, words too fast and low to make out. The survivors say nothing. When I pass their corner, I hear only John's breathing. Slow, wet, like waves drawing back from stones. The compass begins to fail 2 days later. At first it is a minor fluctuation, a few degrees off here and there. The navigator frowns, recalculates, curses quietly. He checks the gyro. He checks the charts. He checks the stars when we surface. The stars say one thing, the compass says another. Magnetic anomaly, the navigator says, has to be. Maybe the tanker had something in her cargo. Fields messed with. His explanation is thin. He knows it, but he has nothing else. The radio starts to misbehave as well. Static thickens into whispers. Sometimes I pick up signals that should not be there. Call signs from boats reported loss months ago. Fragments of transmissions cut off mid-sentence. A man reciting his coordinates and then suddenly silent. Most nights, under the hiss, I hear the same three-note phrase. Low, high, higher. Like the opening of that humming tune John favors. Sometimes I take the headphones off. The melody continues anyway, in the ring of the bulkheads and the drip of condensation. When we finally catch another distress call, we all feel it. It comes in the early hours before dawn. The boat rocks slowly on the surface. The air is damp and cold. Men sleep in shifts. I sit alone in the radio room, lamps dimmed, the only light the glow of the dials. Sudden, sharp beeps cut through the static. SOS English voice. Different call letters. Different ship name. But the pattern is the same. Panic under discipline. Coordinates rattled off with painful precision. The ship claims to have been hit only minutes ago. I look at the chart. We are nowhere near their position. I logged the call anyway. Old habit. As I write the time, the pencil hesitates. I feel eyes on the back of my neck. Slowly, I look over my shoulder. John stands in the doorway. He is barefoot. His feet leave no wet prints on the metal deck. His hair lies flat and damp against his skull despite the warmth inside the boat. How many? He asks quietly. His voice is clear now. No hoarseness, No exhaustion. How many what? How many call for you? He says. How many you listen to? I swallow. Too many. He smiles. The expression is almost gentle. They keep asking, he says. You keep listening. That's good. She likes that. Who? He tilts his head, as if puzzled. I need to ask. The one who holds everything up, he says. You call it the Atlantic. We had other names. His eyes are not quite focused on me. They seem to look through the bulkhead, into the water beyond. You should rest, I say. You are a guest here. He laughs softly. It is a sound like bubbles bursting. We are not guests, he says. We are compensation. He fades back into the corridor before I can demand what he means. That day, the tapping does not stop. It follows us at periscope depth, like a persistent knock at the door of a house trying to pretend no one is home. 3. Pause. 2. Sometimes closer, sometimes further down the hall. Once, horrifyingly, from directly under my feet in the radio room, I feel the vibration through my chair. Holtz is gone. His bunk is empty. His mug sits on the shelf above, enamel chipped, handle turned outward the way he always left it. No one moves it. Capel fills the silence. He left with more jokes. We picked up 4, lost 1, he says at lunch, forcing a grin. Bad trade. English don't even know how to curse properly. No one laughs this time. When he reaches for the salt, his hand trembles. The salt has clumped into small, hard lumps, damp. When he shakes the shaker, they rattle like tiny bones. That night, I dream of standing on the dock in Trondheim. The old woman sits on her crate, hands on basket, eyes on me. The fjord behind her is perfectly still. Our boat floats at the pier, but its hull is translucent. I can see all the compartments through it, all the men in their bunks, lungs full of dark water, hair drifting. The woman lifts her hand again. 3. Pause. 2. When I wake, my pillow is wet with more than sweat. The smell of harbor mud is strong in the tiny bunk. Things break faster after that. A pump that should last. The patrol starts to fail. A valve sticks. A light bulb explodes, showering hot glass on a man's arm. The doctor treats burns with his last tube of ointment. Every time something snaps or jams, I hear the faint echo of water sloshing where it has no right to be. Morgan coughs more often. Not the dry cough of a man who has smoked too much, but a wet gurgle, like someone trying to clear his throat of brine. Still, his skin never reddens properly. He does not sweat. His pulse under the medic's fingers is slow and steady. If they had been out there 3, 4 weeks, the medic mutters to me out of their earshot, they would not look like that. They should be, burned, starved, skin sloughing. I saw lifeboat cases after Jutland. They looked different. So what do they look like? I ask. He hesitates. Like men pulled too early from pickling, he says finally. Not fresh, not rotten. Something in between. We receive new orders. Enemy activity heavy. Air patrols intensified. Stay submerged in daylight. Attack by night. Safety depth not guaranteed. Confidence in your seamanship and your loyalty to the Führer. Blah blah. Brenner reads the message with a blank face and then folds it in half. Tell the men, he says to the first officer. Carefully, we spend more hours below. The air grows stale faster. Tempers shorten. Men snap at each other over small things. A misplaced spoon, a bumped shoulder, a joke at the wrong time. The survivors move like pale fish through our cramped steel world. Men begin to cross themselves more openly when they pass them. The second real death comes without enemy help. We are at 60 meters, listening, engines at slow ahead. I am at my post when a scream rips through the boat from somewhere forward. Not the short, sharp shout of someone burned or cut. A long, bubbling howl that cuts off mid-breath. The alarm bell clangs. Men tumble out of their bunks, out of their seats. Control. Someone gasps over the voice tube. For torpedo room. It's E-static, swallows the rest. By the time I worm through 2 bulkheads, A knot of men blocks the compartment hatch. "Move," Kruger barks, pushing them aside. The scene inside locks itself in my head with a clarity no battle ever manages. Capel lies half inside the torpedo hatch. He is not crushed. The hatch is open. No tube was loaded. He sprawls on his back, one arm flung out, fingers curled. His face is turned toward the ceiling. His eyes stare. His mouth is full of seawater. It pours out in a steady stream, more than any man could hold in his cheeks. It cascades down his jaw and onto the deck, pooling round his ears. His chest does not rise. The medic pushes past me, drops to his knees, tries to clear the airway. His hands plunge into the cold, endless flow. "Turn him," he snaps. On his side, we roll Capel. Water continues to spill out, thinner now, tinged with something darker. In it float bits of pale matter that might be algae or something worse. I gag. "What happened?" Brenner demands from the doorway. The torpedoman's face is gray. "He was alone," he stammers. "Checking the seals. We were at depth, sir, dry as a bone. Then he shouted. I turned and saw him staggering back from the tube like something grabbed him. He fell, started, that he points at the puddle. We all look toward the open torpedo tube. It yawns like a mouth. The outer door is locked, of course. If it weren't, we would all be dead. The indicator says so. Red where it should be red, black where it should be black. But the metal ring around the opening is wet, not damp. Wet drops bead on the inside surface and run down in thin lines. As I watch, another drop fat as a tear forms near the top and falls, splashing. We close the inner door on that sight. We do not talk about it. But that night, in his bunk, one of the younger sailors whispers loud enough for me to hear. They joined us, he says. Now they want one of ours. For balance. Shut up, someone hisses. Sleep. The knocking comes again. 3. Pause. 2. Faster now, closer sometimes. It seems, from inside the walls, instead of outside. We are days from any friendly port. Fuel is no longer a minor concern. Food stretches, but grows dull. Conversations dry up. Laughter dies. The survivors do not look any thinner. At some point, Brenner makes his decision. He comes to me in the radio room, face drawn, eyes with dark semicircles beneath. Ricer, he says, I want the exact date and time of the Coralline's last transmission. I flip through the logbook. He watches the pages move. I find the entry. I read it aloud. 20 days ago, I say. He takes a breath like he's been punched. And they claim. 3 weeks, he mutters. No, the math. He trails off. He rubs his thumb over the dent in his cap. I shouldn't have taken them aboard, he says quietly. I know that. Orders aside. Instinct. The air changed the moment that hatch closed. He looks at me. There is something wrong on my boat. The air in the radio room tastes of metal and mildew. The static on the set throbs in my ears like a distant engine idling. What do you want to do? I ask. He glances toward the passageway where a faint trail of damp footprints has appeared again, leading forward. We are surfacing tonight, he says. Whether or no, we will put them back on a raft, with food, with water. Officially, we will say we found an empty float and could not investigate further due to enemy activity. It will be a lie. I will answer for it. But this, he swallows. This is something I cannot command. You think they will go? I ask. He hesitates. His eyes flick to the overhead, where the tapping has started up again, as if the hull itself is listening. They will, he says. Or we will make them. The sea is not kind that night. Waves slap the hull when we surface, harder than the charts predicted. Wind howls across the casing. Spray whips in our faces. Men curse as they wrestle covers and lines. We are not staying up long, the first officer shouts. Move quickly. We bring the raft up. It looks old now, older than it should. The wood has darkened. Greenish slime clings to its underside. The ropes are stiff, whitened from constant soaking and drying. We try to keep it from rocking too much as we lash it near the tower. The survivors stand on deck, lashed to rails for safety, faces slick with spray. Morgan squints into the dark. The wind plasters his hair to his skull. "What are you doing?" he shouts over the storm. "Taking you off our boat," Brenner says bluntly. "You can't stay." A wave crashes over the bow, soaking us all. Salt stings my eyes. This close, under the flicker of the bridge light, I see something I had missed before. Their pupils do not contract when the light hits them. They remain wide, black, swallowing the irises. "We are still alive," Morgan says. His voice drops. The wind seems to slip around his words instead of carrying them away. "You are wrong," Brenner says. "If you were, you would not be here." John smiles. It is the first time I have seen his teeth properly. They are too many. Not literally, no, but they seem to go too far back, like the mouth is deeper inside than it should be. The lighting plays tricks. My stomach twists. "You cannot give us back," he says pleasantly. "She sent us. You took us. That is the trade." Behind him, the sea rises, black and endless. Another wave hits. For a moment, the deck is a tilted plain of water. Cold grabs my legs up to the knees. My boots fill. Someone cries out as a hand slips from a rail. I see something in that wave. Faces. Dozens. Maybe more. Pale ovals opening and closing. Mouths forming bubbles instead of words. Hands reach up from the foam. Fingers long and boneless. They smash against the hull and vanish. The boat drops into the trough. Everyone reeling. Lines creak. Metal groans. Brenner's jaw clenches. "This is my ship," he snarls. "You are not crew. You are not passengers. You are nothing. I will not lose more men to something I do not understand." He nods to Kruger. We move. It is not a clean fight. It should not be a fight at all. 4 exhausted men against an entire crew. But they are stronger than they look. Their limbs do not move quite right. Angles are off. Joints bend too smoothly. Morgan grabs my wrist as I reach for his shoulder. His fingers are iron. Cold burns into my skin. "What did you hear when we called?" He hisses in my ear. "Did you turn away? Did you close the hatch then too?" Flashes of the logbook. The date. My pencil underlining the time while he screamed into the dark Atlantic. "We were ordered," I say, through clenched teeth. He laughs. Water drips from his lips, even though no wave hits him at that moment. "You always are," he says. "That's why she needs us." He lets go. Kruger and 2 others seize him. They drag him toward the raft. John does not fight. He steps onto the raft on his own, barefoot, as if returning to his living room. The other 2 cling to rails, cursing, pleading, English words, prayers, threats of tribunals, and war crimes. We push them. The raft drops. For a second it hangs there, balanced between hull and wave. Then the sea claims it. It bobs away. 4 figures crouched within its ring. They do not look back. The storm seems to recede a little as soon as they clear our shadow. The wind still howls, but the worst gusts ease. The rain slackens. The air on deck feels marginally lighter. Below, Brenner orders. "Now, dive." We slam the hatch. Water cascades down the outer skin, but the inner surfaces are dry. For the first time in days, the smell of harbor mud fades. We dive. As the pressure builds, the hull creaks. No tapping. Men exchange looks in the red-lit control room. "Maybe that's it," someone whispers. "Shut up," Kruger mutters. "Don't ask for more." We level off at periscope depth. The sea cradles us. I return to the radio room, pull on the headphones. Silence, then the cold crackle of distant stations. For a little while, nothing else. My shoulders sag. I had not realized how tense they were. I flip through the logbook to the page with the Corlin's entry. The line under the time looks darker than it should. The pencil mark has bled, somehow, like wet ink. A drop of water falls on the paper. I look up. The ceiling over the desk is dry. Another drop splashes the page. I swipe it with my thumb. It smells of cold, deep brine. The tapping starts again. 3. Pause. 2. From inside the boat. It comes from the bulkhead behind me, the one that backs onto the battery compartment. Someone knocks to be let out. I turn slowly. There is no door there, just painted steel, rivets, pipes. They knock again. The sound vibrates through my teeth. "Control," I say, voice shaking. "Do you hear that?" "Yes." Brenner's answer comes back, tinny through the voice tube. It is in every compartment. Men stand frozen where they are. In the mess. In the engine room. In the forward quarters. The sound crawls through the boat like fingers dragging along a coffin lid. 3. Pause. 2. The lights dim. For a moment, absolute darkness. In that blackness, I see them all. Holtz standing knee-deep in water that fills the lower half of the boat. Capel beside him, mouth open, lungs bubbling. Their skin is pale and slick. Their eyes are full of the same deep, slow wisdom John carried. Behind them, more faces. English, German, Norwegian. Men I have never met, but whose signals I have logged. They reach out. The lights flicker back. The floor is dry. My heart hammers uncontrollably. Blow ballast. Someone shouts. Surface. Now, we rocket upward. The boat groans. For a second, it feels like something enormous has wrapped its hands around the hull, trying to hold us down. Then we burst through. Air smashes against the tower hatch when it opens. Cold, wet, blessed air. Men scramble up, gulping it. The sea around us is flat, too flat. The storm has gone, as if cut away with a knife. Clouds part. Stars glitter, improbably bright overhead. The swell is gentle, almost lazy. The raft drifts 50 meters off our port bow. Empty. No figures. No oars. Only 4 neatly folded life jackets sit in the center, stacked one atop the other, straps aligned. They are dry. Brenner swears. He grips the rails so hard his knuckles whiten. "Ready the gun?" he says through his teeth. We sink it. We aim our own weapon at the small circle of bobbing wood that has caused all this. The gun's report cracks the night. The shell hits true. The raft shatters. For a heartbeat, pieces hang in the air, outlined in phosphorus from the disturbed water. Faces in the spray. Open mouths, hands reaching. Then darkness. Wood fragments float, then slowly drift apart. The air lightens. The tapping stops. We make it back to port. That should be the end of it. Officially, that patrol is unremarkable. We sank a tanker. We damaged a freighter. We suffered equipment malfunctions resulting in 2 accidental deaths, one of which is attributed to a slip and head trauma, the other to a possible aneurysm. The papers are filed. The medals are pinned. The band plays on the pier when we come in with fewer men than we left. No one writes about 4 men taken aboard and thrown back. In the barracks, stories spread anyway. Men clean their weapons a little more carefully when we pass. Conversations stop when we walk into the mess. No one wants to sit too close to us. Superstition spreads quick among men whose lives hang on thin walls and thinner orders. Holtz's bunk is reassigned, but no one sleeps well in it. The new man complains of waking with wet sheets and the taste of salt in his mouth. He transfers to another boat as soon as he can. Capel's mug disappears from its shelf. I find it one evening in the radio room, sitting next to the set. No one admits to bringing it. Inside, at the bottom, a thin crust of dried salt glitters. I throw it overboard. It bobs once, then goes straight down, as if pulled. On the dock in Trondheim, the old woman is gone. Her crate sits empty for days, then disappears as well. Fewer boats leave with full crews now. Aircraft come more often. The sea takes more than it gives. Years pile. Cities burn. Flags change. The war ends, but the water does not. It stays where it has always been, above and below, moving, remembering. I live. Some would say that is luck. I am not so sure. In this chair, in this room that smells of disinfectant and overcooked cabbage, the sea comes back every night. The radiator rattles. Pipes knock. 3. Pause. 2. The nurses do not hear it. They move in white shoes along linoleum, carrying pills and charts, talking about their holidays and their children. They smile kindly when I flinch at a dropped spoon. The knock comes again as soon as they leave. In the sink in the corner, the tap drips. The drops fall in a rhythm that does not match the clock. My grandson visited once with his boy. Small child, bright eyes. He brought a toy submarine, yellow and cheerful, with big black windows. He wanted to show it to me. He filled the basin with water from the tap. The water was clear. He set the toy on the surface. It floated for a second, then rolled. Once, twice. Then it went straight down. His hands were still on the rim of the basin. No one had pushed. No one had touched the toy. The boy laughed. "Look, Opa," he said. "It sinks like a real one." He reached in to retrieve it. He yanked his hand back with a cry. Red welts striped his wrist, where something unseen had wrapped around it, tight and thin, like a rope, or fingers. The nurse said he'd scraped himself on the plug chain. There is no plug chain. I didn't argue. I watched the water in the basin. Tiny bubbles rose from the bottom in a slow, steady stream, like breath. At night, when the building is quiet, I hear voices on frequencies no radio here can catch. Men calling positions that no longer exist. Ship names no one remembers. Somewhere, under the hiss, a tune hums. Low, then high, then higher. Sometimes I hum along without realizing it, until my tongue tastes salt. I do not sleep much. When I do, I dream of that logbook, of that underlined time, of 4 men climbing a ladder onto our deck, having been dead for exactly 20 days, and yet still insisting they are alive. They were never shipwrecked survivors. They were messengers. We were the ones being rescued. From what, I am still not sure. The knocks come again, closer, inside my bones now. 3. Pause. 2. I look at the photograph finally. I turn it over. 5 faces stare up at me. Brenner Holtz, Capel myself, and a 5th man whose features are blurred by water damage, as if someone spilled a glass over that corner long ago and never wiped it. He stands slightly behind us, a hand on each of our shoulders. His hair is plastered to his skull. His eyes are pale and empty. I remember 4 in the raft. I remember 4 in the photo when we took it. Water has a way of adding what was not there. The pipes knock harder. A thin, cold trickle runs down the wall near the radiator and pools by the leg of my chair. It smells exactly like the Atlantic west of Ireland in late '42. Someone whispers from inside the metal. Funker, the voice says. Surface. My lungs ache. For a moment, I almost stand. Almost reach for a hatch that is not there. I stay seated. There is no surface left for me that they cannot reach faster. If you want to hear the rest, the stories of men who did answer and men who did not, of seas and forests and fields that keep their own accounts when the paperwork lies, you know where to listen next. For the ones who went down on a patrol, no record mentions, and for the nameless dead of a freighter called Coraline, somewhere under the gray Atlantic, this is all the grave I can give.